Alright guys, hope you had a good weekend, you're doing well and keeping safe. I was going to bring this video out over the weekend when I found out about this, but thought I'd wait until today because I want the most amount of people to see this. That way I can get the most amount of feedback on this news in the comments down below. In my last video I talked about the timer on the latest season rerun showing 22 weeks plus, which brings us up to Valentine's Day of next year. Indicating we have approximately 6 months to wait for new content. We've actually had a response to that, which I'm going to go over in this video, but it's not the meat of this one. Now I have pretty conclusive evidence that the new Division 2 content is coming early next year. I realise a lot of my recent videos have been a little bit more negative, but whilst this news could be considered bad for some people, and there is an element of that for sure, I'm actually more positive about this news. So drop a like and subscribe to stay up to date with all of my videos, and let's get into it. Alright, so what's happened? Well, on Friday a source of mine reached out with evidence to show the new content is coming next year. First though, following my last video, Yannick actually responded to the timer showing us 22 weeks on Twitter saying the following: "We put the end date of the season on an abstract date to avoid spoiling the targeted release date of new content. Don't read too much into it." Now, when I first saw this tweet on Friday, I was planning on making a video, albeit a very short one, because this all but confirms the new content is at least coming out before Valentine's Day of next year. Well, that's how I read it anyway. You guys may read it differently. Now, following this tweet, I pretty much had confirmation of this. A source reached out with some screenshots showing conversations between some ETF members. Now, for anyone who's new to the Division, anyone who's been playing the Division 2 who's kind of new to this universe, ETF or Elite Task Force are a group of community members handpicked by Massive to provide feedback on upcoming changes in content. This group started all the way back in the Division, and they were kind of really influential in the updates of 1.4, 1.6 and 1.8. Now, let's talk about the screenshots. So I can't show you them in this video because even if I were to hide the names of the people responsible for this information, the conversation could be tracked down, and these people who are under NDA for this would be liable, and I wouldn't want to be the person to put them in that position. I won't even read word for word what was said for the same reasons. You could easily track down this conversation on whatever platform it is. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm basically just going to tell you the content of this screenshot. An ETF member basically said they are off to Sweden in January on a business trip. Business in parentheses, I think that's what they're called. I can't remember, I'm not very good at grammar anymore. But a business trip, but can't say anything because they are under NDA. And this is for the Division. They're not part of anything else that I'm aware of. I then had further messages with evidence from other ETF members who are going out at the same time in January to Sweden, but under NDA, so they're unable to say anything as well. Now, if the ETF members are off to Massive in January, that means the content will not be out before this trip has been concluded. I don't know when in January this is happening, and none of the evidence I've received gives an exact date, but I'm going to assume it's early January they're heading off. My best guess on the new content release window from this information and for what we know is February of 2022. ETF members are usually there for a couple of days, up to a week, I believe, maximum, and then content will follow shortly after a couple of weeks. It's possible, though, the ETF members really don't like what's coming and the content is delayed further. So I think early February is the earliest we're going to get this new content. I'd be surprised if they delay it any further than February, but it's certainly a possibility. I know a lot of you are going to be disappointed to hear this. I was disappointed when I heard this, but as much as I want this content right now, I actually think this is a good thing, and I want to give you the reasons why. Alright, so firstly, a December release was stated as the earliest possible release date. One of my concerns has always been that if Massive released the content in this window, would it be up to par? Would they just be releasing the content because that's what Ubisoft want, and that's when they said the content might be ready for? You know, they're kind of just pushing it out the door. If you go back to Warlords of New York, whilst I enjoyed the content, there's no doubt about that, the release was pretty bad. It was buggy, and there was a lot of issues that they had to fix over numerous title updates following that. The last thing I want right now is for Massive to, you know, take 9 months out and release this content undercooked just because they said it could be a December release, and then take, you know, 6 months fixing all of the issues and improving things because they brought it out undercooked. You've only got to look at Summit as an example of that. That mode came out completely undercooked with many updates afterwards to make the experience better. I don't want that, and I'm sure you guys will agree with me here that you don't want that either. The last thing we need is for the devs just to force it out just because they said it was going to come out on this day. That's happened. That's been the industry standard for so long. When developers or a publisher says, look, it's coming out on this date, and they force it out because that's the date they said, and then they have to come in and patch it over a period of months. I do think games have got better at actually delaying stuff for the sake of the game. That's certainly been better over the last maybe year or so. But it's certainly been an industry standard for so long, and at least from what I'm seeing here, that doesn't appear to be the case here. It looks as though they're going to take the extra time that they need in order to make sure the content that we receive is good, and that's a good thing. Secondly, the ETF members going is a good thing. Now, we could all have a debate over the effectiveness of the ETF's feedback over the past couple of years. You can look at the updates they've been involved in and say, well, you know, they got this wrong and they got this wrong, but they got this right. We could do that forever. But the fact ETF members are going at all makes me think the devs want to release the best content possible. They did this in the Division 1, and I would say for the most part, I would say that it probably made the stuff better. I mean, we don't know what the content would have been without their feedback, but I would presume it was made better as a result of them being part of it. But ultimately, the way I see it is, if they're going, then it means that Massive or Ubisoft are willing to, pay their expenses. They're willing to get those people in to make the content as good as possible. Sure, it could have been opened up instead to some of the OGs of the division to give feedback on, but that would have to go through Ubisoft, which would likely cause, a further delay, and the chances are it would have been rejected anyway. So I can see why they've chosen the ETF members to go and take a look. My hope is the content is really good anyway, and little feedback will be required. Ultimately, as I said, I'm just kind of happy the devs are seeking a second opinion, something I didn't think was going to happen at all. I thought the devs would just do the work. We wouldn't get a beta, any of that kind of stuff. We wouldn't get a PTS, none of that stuff. They would release it, and then it would probably be undercooked, and it probably maybe wouldn't be up to par, possibly, and they would fix it over months. I'm hoping with these 2 points combined, that means we're going to get the best content possible. Thirdly, there are many games coming out over the next couple of months that would have completely overshadowed any Division 2 content. We've got Battlefield, we've got Call of Duty. There's tons of games coming out that would have overshadowed this content. Early February of New Year, there is nothing there yet. Destiny 2 Witch Queen expansion is the 22nd, and then Horizon Forbidden West is the 18th. Early February will give the Division 2 a 2-week window before Destiny 2, which is great. It gives the Division 2 a chance to catch people and keep players' attention. For selfish reasons, it's also good because I will definitely be playing Witch Queen. I want to play Battlefield 2042, and I want to play a lot of these other games, and I didn't want my attention taken away from those games to play the Division 2, and so I'm hoping that we get a nice little window here where I can completely get into this new content and see what it's all about. I think a December release would have certainly been disastrous for this content to come out in, and so I'm kind of happy if we get it early February. I think there's a good possibility that the content comes out. Players are going to not really be playing much else at that time, or certainly any games that have come out would have been out at least a couple of months, so they might be inclined to look elsewhere, and this content might have a chance. Overall then, guys, I'm gutted. Like a lot of you, I wanted this content as soon as possible because I'm itching to play new content. But overall, I'm happy we're having to wait a little bit longer for the reasons I've explained in this video. I just hope the extra time Massive need here means we are going to get some really great content when it finally reaches us. Forcing content out just because and then patching it afterwards has been the industry standard for too long, and always gets met with criticism. Any game that takes longer and delays a game in order to make it better has to be applauded. And for this, if that's what they're doing here, and again, guys, this isn't official yet. I presume we're going to hear about this in the near future. But if this is what they're doing, then I have to applaud them for this, because I'm pretty sure there's pressure from Ubisoft to get this content out as soon as possible. And it's going to be difficult for Massive to say, look, guys, we need longer, so that we don't really cheese our player base off, which was definitely going to be the possibility if they rush this out the door. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, Epic out.